Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Coffee Break, and I am here with game number 2 in this best of 5 series from the NASL Season 2. In this matchup, we are featuring none other than Fnatic's TT1, spawning here as the Red Protoss on NASL Metalopolis, and spawning cross positions not close by air is going to be the Blue Zerg Gamania Sen. In the last game, we saw Sen go for a quick third and then just plain flat out overpower TT1 with his Roach upgrades. And TT1 just didn't have enough firepower really against the mass Roach of Gamania Sen. Sen just had it just maxed out so quickly. I mean, it blew my mind how quickly he was maxed out. And doing a little bit of an extractor trick there just to get that extra drone out before going Overlord. And it looks like we do have a TT1 once again setting up to do a Forge Fast Expand. Last game, TT1 did have a little bit of problems with his Forge Fast Expand as he was blocking himself off, walling himself off completely from his natural. He couldn't get any probes down to his natural to mine, had to cancel a couple of buildings, destroy a pylon, so just nothing really going well for him in that ride. Now, once again, I do want to draw attention to Sen's extractor first, then pool for all of you younger Zerg players out there. Very, very safe build. Very nice to have because you get that, once again, you get that quick metabolic boost, which allows you to get map control. Makes sure the Protest can't move out in the early game. Just a very, very nice upgrade to have as quickly as you can possibly get. In the meantime, we do have TT1 going for a lot of probes, chrono boosting all those probes out. And it'll be interesting to see if he goes Nexus first this game or if he'll go Forge first. Forge first obviously being a lot safer, but no, he is going to indeed go Nexus first, even though we had a pool before hatch. That's a little bit of a greedy, risky sort of build. You want to be really careful when you're doing that. A lot of time you can get away with it if the Zerg player goes hatch first, but when you have this spawning pool first, especially when you've scouted that gas for the metabolic boost, you want to be a little bit more careful. And there we go, pulling the drones off of gas. And once again, getting that metabolic boost. So, it'll be interesting to see if Sen does decide to punish this. He actually could. You can actually do, if you get a lot of Zerglings out early on, you can do a really quick run by and try to do some damage. Here's the Overlord scouting that out. These next few moments will kind of dictate how this game does go. And it looks like we are just going to be seeing a normal hatchery coming out of Sen. So we won't be seeing any crazy aggression to try to punish this fast Nexus. This is fairly standard play out of Protoss actually right now. This isn't anything too unusual. I don't think that's a big deal that Sen isn't punishing this. In fact, once again, it just means that he can take a quick third and be perfectly fine because that warp gate is going to be just a little bit later than if you go Forge first. Now we do have. I also want to point out building placement. I've been saying a lot of little things for Zergs, as like the extractor before pool, just kind of pushing out across the map, making sure to take these watchtowers with those metabolic boost Zerglings. One thing for Protoss players, look at the cannon placement for TT1. Every building is always placed very precisely for these pro players in the early game. You have this one cannon right here, which is going to defend the backside of the mineral line and this assimilator here. And you have one cannon over here to defend, well, I guess it's to defend your main buildings. But it is very important to have this back cannon because this will also defend from Mutalisks in the mid game. And once again, it'll defend from Roaches trying to pick off probes over here at the top 3 mineral patches. So very, very important to have those 3. And it looks like we actually had a hatchery canceled from Sen. It looks like he's going to be going for a Roach bust. A very fast Roach Warren. And that's rather interesting play coming out of Sen. That's risky on his own because if it fails, if he does no damage, he's going to be severely behind economically. Now there's going to be 39 to 35 supply. We're only going to have one Zealot out on the field in time by the time these Roaches get across the field. There's a lot of Roaches and Zerglings, and this is going to be a very, very scary push coming out of Sen. Now TT1's going to have absolutely no idea this is happening because he does not control any watchtowers right now. 40 supply. It's going to be very, very close. We do have one stalker on the way now. Now the Zealot might get picked off. Actually, TT1 cannot afford to lose his Zealot, but he does, and doesn't even take a swipe. Now these Roaches do outrange the cannons when there is a building in front. I'm surprised that these Zerglings are engaging, actually, as a lot of the time Zerg players will just have these Roaches sit back out of the cannon's range. Now it looks like the probes are going to start moving up the ramp, trying to block this off. Now the Stalker is wide out in the open. It could be picked off instantly. There are going to be 6 more reinforcing Zerglings and a hatchery going up at the natural expansion. So it looks like Sen is going to try to do a macro build off of this, and he is going to be able to, because he did the damage that he needed to do. Those Zerglings blocking off that forge one last time, and now the Roaches and Zerglings are up in the main base. A lot of probes have already fallen for TT1. Now it looks like he's going to be trying to evacuate these probes down to his natural. It's going to be interesting to see where Sen wants to target fire. Looks like he's going to be going after the Cybernetics core there on the low ground. One Roach is going to be picked off by this Stalker. Once again, a lot of probes have fallen in this combat. I will check that probe count after this battle is completed. More probes falling yet. Now it takes 3 Roaches to one-shot probes, as Roaches do 16 damage each, probe at 40 health. And the Stalker just doing a little bit of work. If Sen managed to take out this one Stalker, he could actually have pretty much free reign to it. But no, a second Stalker does come up and deciding to shoot his own pylon a couple times, maybe confusing himself for a Void Ray, trying to get charged up on his own pylon. This one Stalker, nice control by TT1, keeping that alive as long as possible. We do have a little group of Zerglings down here for any sort of counterattack at any point if he decides to try to run up into the base. One Roach does remain in the main base, so Sen doing so much damage in this push. TT1 having to devote a lot of time, and it looks like Sen now does have a second base up. That is the exact kind of damage you need to do when you were going for a Roach bust. And the workers killed, 26 workers killed for Sen. So TT1 really hurting in that, right? But that just evens it up. That makes it so Sen really didn't lose anything, but he didn't necessarily gain anything, but maybe a little bit of momentum in that last battle. And now going for his quick third base, just like he did in that first game. A lot of Zerglings sitting out here. And now the cannon, actually, these Zerglings have a little bit of an opportunity, as these cannons are both attacking that supply depot. That would give them just a moment to try to run around. But no, the sentries are there to force field the main ramp, and also to force field off this forge should the Zerglings decide to try to engage that. But they are going to back up as Stalkers did come into the fray. We are seeing the +1 armor upgrade instead of the +1 ground weapons upgrade. I don't know if ground weapons is already complete, perhaps. No, we are seeing armor first upgrade out of TT1. I do actually like that, because we have seen quite a few Zerglings on the field. Zerglings obviously being a high attack rate, low damaging unit. So if you can minimize that damage that you take with every shot, that is just that much more effective. That's also why you see a quick 1 armor against Terran a lot of the time as Protoss, because those Marines do 6 damage, and Protoss infantry unit, Zealot and Stalker, have an innate 1 armor. And if you get that +1 armor plus pop a Guardian Shield, which gives an automatic +2 armor versus ranged attacks, suddenly Marines are only doing 2 damage, and that is a very, very potent combination. Now, I did just notice something very interesting about NASL Metalopolis, is that the gold bases do have this destructible debris there. I do like that. It does stop any sort of quick macro cheese from either of the players. It looks like Sen is gearing up to maybe take his 4th. I don't know if that's just as a precautionary measure so that he can take his 4th whenever he really feels like it, or if he's actually going to be gearing up to take his 4th shortly. However, TT1 is going to see this rather shortly, as he will more likely not take the watchtower. Indeed, he will take that watchtower. See that those rocks are just about to go down. I would assume Sen's going to take out those rocks and then run. No, instead engaging his army, just wasn't paying attention to those Zerglings. That's not too big of a deal, however, losing just a few Zerglings there. And it looks like we are seeing a very heavy push. This was probably a 6-gate push. This is a bit of an older push coming out of our Protoss player here. A 6-gate timing push. Normally will come around 9 minutes, but since there was that Roach bust early on in the game, it has come a little bit later. And it looks like TT1 deciding actually not to engage, interestingly enough. I feel like he had enough to engage this army. Maybe just warping in a couple more Stalkers would have done him good. However, deciding to pull back, wait for his Immortal, wait for his Colossus even. And it looks like we may even be going up to a 3rd base. Indeed, the 3rd base is going to be dropped, as well as Hallucination. I actually really like that play call coming out of TT1. This is another one of those kind of underused upgrades for the Protoss army. If you just can hallucinate 1 or 2 Colossus in and make them focus fire the incorrect Colossus, or maybe hallucinate 1 or 2 Archons in the front. If you already have a Templar Archive or a Dark Shrine, you could really confuse the Zerg player into what tech you have exactly. Now it looks like there was a cancel on this Nexus, as a few Zerglings did run up, and TT1 was out of position to defend against that. Going right back up immediately though, that is not too big of a loss. A Zergling Roach army coming up that hallucinate just about finished. You just need to make sure not to hallucinate your army in front of the other player. And for those of you who don't know, since hallucination is kind of an underused ability, detection will spot which units are hallucinated. They will be blue looking. There's a couple hallucinations. Actually, just using these for scouts, I feel like he could do a little bit better of a job. Scouting wise, I guess he already has the robotics facility up, so he doesn't really have to reveal that these are hallucinations. He could have easily hallucinated a couple of Colossus into his army and tried to fool the Zerg player, but it looks like Sen is going to be coming up into the third base, and TT1 once again out of position to defend against this. Once again, the cancel on that Nexus. The Nexus really getting delayed. There's 200 free minerals practically for Sen, and it looks like just taking a few quick shots. Oh my goodness, a very nice force field going down at the third base. Sen getting trapped, part of his army getting cut off, and it looks like half of his army going around, swinging around to the natural base. In the meantime, a little bit of an army that got trapped on the top side of the ramp in the third base, doing a little bit of damage. Now here comes the roaches and Zerglings that were trapped on the bottom of the ramp, trying to push up, do a little bit of damage. No damage sustained there. However, very good positioning by the roaches down on the on the upper portion of the ramp that got trapped in the third base, able to take out quite a few zealots and sentries before finally falling to the rest of the army of TT1. Sen sitting once again in a very, very nice position, creating 25 roaches at once. That is a lot of roaches popping right there. Now, they do have burrow now. I do not know if they have burrow movement. Where is the roach warren? No, they do not have tunneling claws, so they do not get that life regeneration or the movement underground while they are burrowed. However, it does look like TT1's army pushing up a little bit. Probably could have taken this army on, and that would have been half the army getting hit at once. As we do have the other half trying to push down the top highway, coming in towards the natural expansion. And it looks like an observer was over his army, so a couple of free shots were given. However, the natural expansion is going to be taking quite a bit of damage from TT1, and Sen down on the bottom side, trying to push up into the third base of TT1. Either really able to do a lot of damage. However, Sen not quite sure where he wants to strike first. 10 Mutalisks are on the way, so that will definitely help with the harassment of Sen's army. Now, we do have a fourth base being taken over at, I would call that the natural fourth, just kind of flowing along in a clockwise pattern and taking the gold as either a fifth or a sixth. We do have a massive roach army sitting in the middle of the map right now, and once again, with so many roaches on the map, I'm very surprised we have not yet seen tunneling claws. I do understand that there are cannons and I believe an observer over this army somewhere. No, I don't actually see an observer there. There's the observer. I do understand that those are out, but if you catch the Protoss army out of position without that observer, you can actually do quite a bit of damage. And right here, we are catching the entire Protoss army out of position. The army didn't get split in half. One Colossus does fall immediately. Now, there is half the army on the bottom, half the army on top of these forces, and instead, Sen is deciding to push in straight for the natural expansion. Now, it looks like this second Colossus will fall once again free of charge, and now Sen's army is completely cut off from the rest of any of his three forces. In the meantime, we do have Mutalisks in the main base. They are going to be able to take out that Nexus, I believe. The Roach is doing quite a bit of damage, but taking a lot more damage to themselves. I don't really know who's coming out on top of this battle. A lot of probes did die, however, and this main Nexus did fall to all of these Mutalisks. In the meantime, a lot of probes once again fell in the natural expansion, and 4 more roaches just kind of sitting over here. They can do a little bit of damage later on. Sen, once again, proving to be just absolutely daunting with all of his micro and harassment. This guy pulling Mutalisks into the fray in game number 2 here. And we do have 25 more roaches just now popping out for Sen. He is very happy with just Roach, Corruptor, and Mutalisk doing all sorts of damage. We are now up to 38 workers killed for Sen, 0 workers killed for TT1. So I feel if TT1 wants to come back in this game, he's going to have to do a little bit of harassment on his own. Maybe sacrifice a Colossus production cycle for a Warp Prism, maybe even get a second robotics facility to try to counteract all of the units on the field for Sen, because Sen can just re-max out at his own whim. We are seeing more Mutalisks fly in here. They are going to be able to supply block TT1 just a little bit, taking out that one pylon on the edge. And it looks like TT1's army just kind of sitting back on the middle bottom highway there. And now Sen is moving up for another nasty blow, moving in maybe even for a killing blow here, as there are a lot of roaches in this army deciding to engage directly these Mutalisks. Not good in a straight up fight though, they fall instantly. Meanwhile, there were 2-3 Corruptors on the field taking out Colossus, and those are not being focus fired down for whatever reason. So a little bit of a, once again, I feel a mismicro from TT1 in that battle. And Sen can just re-macro his army up instantly, getting a few Zerglings to supplement his army this time because of the daunting numbers of Stalkers in this army. However, we are also seeing Banelings on the field now, so if a couple Baneling hits can land and weakening up the shields of the Protoss player, that will be lights out for TT1. We do have one Colossus very, very low on health with just a few kills on him. And it looks like Sen, once again, sitting in a very, very nice position. 10 Banelings on the way. 10 Banelings have now finished. And I don't know if TT1 has seen that. I assume he has, as he got relatively close to this Baneling right here. Sen with a very, very nice army spread, nice concave, and able to charge straight up into the army. Now pulling his Banelings in from the back. I don't know if TT1 can run anywhere. The Banelings not really landing the critical hits they need though, but still the roaches there are enough roaches on the field to do the critical damage he needed. Now burying his roaches so that the Banelings can get to the front line. Very nice move by Sen, and there's the GG, and once again, in game number 2 from TT1, a beautifully played game from Sen, once again favoring his roaches, and even able to tech up into Aspire this game going on a little bit longer, so we were able to see a little bit of Aspire play, which took out the Nexus and a lot of probes from TT1, and to top it all off, the icing on the cake, the Banelings, and a little bit of nice micro coming from Sen, once again burying those roaches, allowing the Banelings to get up into the army of TT1, and in the end, those Banelings, I feel, landed just enough hits to really make the roaches just overpower outright the army. I think Sen could have actually won that battle even without the Banelings, but once again the icing on the cake just to ensure his victory. What a great game. Once again, this is from NASL, so this is going to be a best of 5 series. We have at least one more game coming up out of these two players, perhaps 2 or 3 more. I am not going to give that away. I already know because I had to download all the games. Nonetheless, I'm going to go on to game number 3 here. Thank you for joining me. If you have not already, subscribe and comment to this video. It really helps me know what's going on. And if anybody here out there is from Reddit, thank you very much for your feedback from the post I made. I really, really appreciate that. And I will go ahead and link that post so that you guys can also go there and let me know if you'd rather let me know on Reddit rather than here on YouTube for whatever reason. Nonetheless, I'm going on to game number 3 between these two players in this best of 5 matchup. This is Coffee Break, signing out.